this is as a crude value graph, and then I've basically written the names of the builders. A real good value graph will have all the builders down below with all color-coded. And so you can see that there's the buyer profile down the bottom left-hand corner from whatever, 1,500 to 2,600 square feet, 2/2s and some small townhouses being built by Ryland and NV. And then the majority of the market is anywhere from 2,800 up to over 4,000, selling from 650 to over 880. So how do I, looking at the value graph, how can I price to be competitive and at what absorption rate? So this is part of the competitive market analysis that's done. So just to summarize at the end here, there's the demand side and the supply side. The supply side we're getting from our third parties, we're getting from builder information, we're getting it from Hanley Wood, Vectra Study, et cetera. We're getting it from the George Mason University world is John Burns, Debbie Rosenstein. And then there's the demand side. The demand side is coming from again, what I like to do is the market research piece. And is it the focus group side, which is done through target market research, or is it the strategic market side, which is really done through surveys? And there are ways to do surveys. You can send out a survey form. We get them in the mail. It's got $1 in it. And they thank you for filling out the survey. You take the $1, and some of us fill it out, some of us don't, but you get the $1 in your pocket. Or you have the online surveys that you get. And typically surveys take you through a tree structure. They ask you, are you ethnicity? I don't know if they ask ethnicity anymore. I think they ask you whether you're male or female. They ask you your age. They ask you your education. Are you looking for a new home? What kind of home are you looking for? And so those surveys go back, and they are analyzed, and the information is bundled into similarities that lead to groups or clusters of buyers. And so Axiom has already done this for us. They know that there are 70 different consumer groups out there. But you're looking at a specific piece of property, or you're looking at Fairfax County overall, and you do this survey throughout Fairfax County. And you get information back from Chantilly, from Fairfax, from Springfield, and you can create clusters or groups of information within each one of those submarkets to understand who that buyer profile is. And this helps you focus your land acquisition efforts. You better understand your consumer segments, and you understand what product they're willing to buy. On the focus group side, the target market research, is your vision for that property, what you think that 5 acres should be, will meet the needs and the wants of the consumer group. And so the site is sitting off on Route 28, somewhere here in Chantilly. So you get a third party to reach out to individuals that are looking for new homes, and you create a focus group, and you ask those people in the focus group specific questions about, you know that they're buyers, they know that they're looking, and so you get real-time information that helps you understand what community features they're looking for, what products specifically they're looking to buy, what standards and options, and what price they're willing to pay. So all that consumer research, if you do good target market research, whether it's a focus group or a strategic market analysis, you get this data. If you do the first 3 things really well, understand what the community should be, understand the product, and understand what the standards and pricing and options will be, you're going to have pricing power ultimately in the market. Again, don't try and design a house or a neighborhood for 100% of the buyers. Design for 80%, because that's what you want to grab. Let the other 20% go to Stanley Martin or MI or NVR. Buy 80% from my buyer's home. So,
we think the same way, so now we're fighting over those few buyers.
Right. So again, I believe that the market research piece, however you do it, either on a broad scale, and you look at all the counties within an SMA, or you're looking at specific neighborhoods, is really key to, again, driving your ability to, for pricing power, velocity, and success for your
think what we've talked about up till now is the most important thing that a builder does is figuring out what land is worth and what they can afford to pay for it with all these different variables that come into play. That's the most important thing we do. When we buy land, it's the biggest risk. You know, if you build a home that's, let's say you guessed wrong and you only have 3 bedrooms and you should have had 4, and you're not, you could design a new home and start selling a 4-bedroom home. Let's say you made a mistake and you priced it wrong. You just change your pricing. If you buy the land wrong, if you paid an extra $1 million or $2 million, or you bought in an area that no one wants to live in, you're in big trouble. So what we've talked about up to now is the riskiest part of being a builder, which is why everyone's not a builder. There's a lot of people that want to, you know, will work for builders or will do this, but a lot of people just don't want to take all that risk for what the returns might be, and it takes a lot. So we talked about the most important part. What we're going to go through now are some of the pieces that come into how do we get there.
Before you leave this slide, sir, you mentioned the launch price on here. What's the normal thought process there? Do you discount at the beginning and sell a few homes?
Well, that's interesting you say that because you're going to launch at the price you think the market will bear. But typically, in order to get a neighborhood started, the customer might come in and say, I'll only pay you X instead of Y, and it's up to the division president whether or not he takes the sales contract. There is, I'll defer to Trude and get his thoughts on this as well. There also is a theory in the industry where you don't open for sale until your model is open for sale. And because you're leaving money on the table. You really don't know what the buyer is willing to pay until they actually walk them out. Some buyers will say, well, I can't buy off of plans. I need to see product. So you might send them to another neighborhood to go see product. But a lot of times, again, a small builder like ourselves, we don't have product to show them because typically every neighborhood is a one-off. We're designing something new for each neighborhood.
There's another way of handling it also. Our company does an extensive amount of VIP work where we will list a neighborhood as coming soon, and we'll take an incredible amount of data from, names of people who have registered. If you're ever asked to register by a builder, you're in the system, they will find you because you're now part of the list, a VIP list. And prior to the neighborhood opening, they're going to talk with each one of the people on their VIP list and kind of gauge interest based on values. As they're getting closer to opening, we typically don't open from sales trailers anymore. Our company used to put a sales trailer in a community, we'd open there. We do like to open from a model as often as possible. We will sometimes pre-sell from another neighborhood if we have a model already opened up that's similar to it in order to get some traction. But it's important once you open a neighborhood that you immediately start building homes. There is nothing worse than having a neighborhood that you build a model in, and 6 months later, there's nothing there. People think the neighborhood's stagnant, something's wrong, something's broken. The best thing you can have is a backlog of interest that you can start moving homes pretty quickly. Once you do open, immediately permit them and go ahead and get the house under construction to where the neighborhood, as you're really opening, it feels very vibrant, it feels like things are going on, and it also starts scaring consumers to believe that, well, if I don't get in now, I'm never going to get in because it's not going to be available. So there's a lot of methodology there, but I know, we will move pricing around as we get through that VIP list until right before opening, just as we're determining the most amount of money that we can get people in the community for and get a bunch of them, to where there's some synergy or some critical mass behind getting the community launched.
And I think your thought process is the way we think also. Typically, as communities have more homes built, the consumer is more comfortable buying there because they see that it's not just them in the middle of this big field and they bought a lemon or in a bad location. So the pricing more often than not, will go up as things mature.
Typically, you can get an investor to go out and put a flag in the ground and pioneer, but most of your home, most of your families or that are looking to actually move into a home are not tearing out to go build it or buy in a neighborhood that they're not sure is actually going to be a viable neighborhood.
Hey, how do you build lot premiums in your financial models? Do you look at that up front?
Yeah, so we look at it as we get close to opening. Once we've got a plan that's pretty much well laid out, and we understand what's behind. Lot premiums are generally driven by lot size and what's behind them. In a typical community, at least speaking for us, in a typical community, you're trying to get a certain level of density into the community because that's what allows you to pay the price for the land in order to get the deal done. But as many lots as you can back up to woods, as many lots as you can back up to water features, as many lots as you can get close to amenities, many lots you can get into cul-de-sacs, that's where you start getting into lot premiums. And they, eventually as we get closer to opening, our marketing team and our division leadership will go through and actually assign premiums to each one of the lots. They'll also assign discounts. So, if you put a house on Route 1, it's going to be priced lower than units that are further away from Route 1. That especially if you're using a stick of townhouse units along Route 1, that's kind of a buffer. So there's discounting and premium that are determined as you're getting through the process of getting ready to open for sales.
And it's all about supply and demand. It's strictly about supply and demand. What's the highest demand, the best lot?
So typically,
Put a higher price on
a
it.
lot of builders don't even have price sheets anymore when you pick up their packages. So, because they'll say, well, the houses are priced from X to Y, and you want to, as you walk the customer through the question and answer, the who, what, and where, and all the open-ended questions, you find out what they're really looking for and what they're willing to pay. And then you let's sit down and look at lots. So the lot premium is usually already built into the sales price of the house. So as Truett said, the house in Route 1 sells for $700. The house that backs up to the trees is priced at $8. So the premium's already into the price, typically. So real quick, we're going to go through this.
Yeah.
Let's go into this.
All right, go through that.
Real quick. Yeah. Stop talking.
He's gonna say it.
We're going to talk about land acquisition real quick. So you found that you're looking for dirt. How do you look for dirt? When it's prospecting. Again, maybe you've done your strategic market research. So you start farming GIS, Amley Wood, Internet, Map Finder, public records, newsletters. Your sphere of influence. Who you know, cold calling, direct mail. Your networking, who do you know, other builders, politicians, engineers are a great resource, other land developers. The Land Act process to find a piece of real estate really is a relationship business, and it's really networking and understand who's out there.
A plug for the NVBIA, as a past president. I got into land acquisition by default in our company, and nobody knew who I was. And if you're a land ac guy that nobody knows, you will know nothing about what's going on out in the market. So, our company's been heavily involved in the association. I came up through the Prince William chapter and then into the leadership in Chantilly. But it became a huge part of my growth in our company, being involved in the NVBIA just by virtue of the number of people I got to meet, but also get your name on enough, emails or whatever going out, show up at enough events. But just being a land ac guy that people know, just so when they're trying to, well, who do I call about this? Well, let's call Truett. You're having lunch with engineers, you're having, you're out and about, and while you're at these social events and, you're befriending everybody in the community, the business community, you're learning more about what's going on out there. And a good land acquisition guy knows what's going on in his market. One of the best resources for what we do is actually associations like the NVBIA.
And another example of that, the developer will come to us or go to Howard or Truett because they know us. A developer will buy a piece of land, a farm, and they'll come to one of us as a builder and say, we just bought this. What do you think about our idea of half townhouses, half singles? And what size townhouses? Do you have product that would fit there. They may not sell us the land, but we're the first one to know that there's that land available, and we know that if the more we help them, the more likely they'll come back to us a year from now when they're ready to sell it. We give developers our plans, our house plans, so that they can fit them on the land and see how many lots they're gonna be able to get out of these 30 acres. We'll help them any way we can just for that opportunity, and it's all about relationships. If they never call you, you may never know that a piece of land's available. So the more you get out there, the more you come to meetings like this or association meetings with developers there, the more opportunities you're gonna have.
Yeah, there's really nothing worse than having the people you work for call you and ask you about a deal that just got done that you weren't involved in and didn't know about. So,
Yeah, it hurts.
All right, moving on.
so the basic, the first steps in, and once you prospect and once you understand exactly, you've identified a piece of property, you know what you want to do with it, you know what values are, you're reaching out to that owner to figure out if it's for sale, if the deal can be done. The way generally we will send out a letter if it's a cold call or whatever. We'll send a letter of interest that just says, hey, we're interested in talking to you about your property. And we're a home builder. We're a regional home builder based in Reston. A little bit of the Stanley Martin story. If you're interested, we'd love to hear from you. Then we follow up with them. But once you understand that a seller is interested in selling and you're starting that negotiation, you have what's called a letter of intent, which is little more than a non-binding letter of business terms. So before, because if in land acquisition, you're turning a number of deals. You're throwing, 15 deals against the wall to hope to get 2 that are actually going to stick. You don't want to spend money on a really in-depth contract for every piece of property until you have a meeting of the minds on exactly what the basic business terms of the deal are. And the letter of intent is actually that piece of paper that has, we're Stanley Martin, this is the business terms we'd like to pay for your property. If you agree, sign at the bottom, and we have a meeting of the minds, and we'll go ahead and have a contract drafted, which is when we have our attorneys get involved. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. So does the environmental constraint analysis happen before this?
That
or
happens
after?
later. So once the deal's done and you're starting to plan it and really get into the weeds on a project, we have a 10-acre piece of property that you're getting, 2.5 units of the acre, and you've sketched 25 lots on your desk. Do you think that works? After you've got a meeting of the minds, you try not to spend a whole bunch of money on a piece of property until you realize that there's something there, there's something worth pursuing. And that's, really, once you get past that letter of intent is where that first,
Okay.
chunk of money starts getting spent with the attorneys when they're drafting the contracts.
So that happens later.
So a 2 or 3 page letter of intent that kind of outlines all the different parts and pieces of what the deal looks like, your property location, lot type, your purchase price, how you're buying it. Am I buying, finished lots on a takedown over the course of the next 3 years, where I buy, 6 1/4, or am I just buying it bulk and raw? Or am I going to tie it up and take, put it under contract and spend the money to carry it through the entitlement process? And then I'll close it when we get through final site plan. There's just so many parts and pieces. The owners typically care about how much you're getting paid and when they're getting paid, and how long you're going to have it tied up, and what are the odds of getting the deal actually finished. So we get all that on paper, come to agreement on those terms, and then we turn it over to our legal counsel, our transaction attorneys. They take that letter of intent and they use it as the framework to draft a contract around. So a 3 or 4 page letter of intent immediately becomes a 35-page contract.
Let me add to that. Letters of intent are 3 or 4 pages. It could be 1 page. It could be a half page. Depends on how complex the property is. Depends on your relationship with the seller. But fairly often what happens is someone's selling property, a developer, who that's all they do is they buy land, they get it through zoning or not, or they just try and sell it to builders. Fairly often, there might be 5 builders that will each submit letters of intent to this seller. There might be 20